Now, you guys come on up here. We've got our next panel who are going to be talking about global brands and NFTs. Hi, Paula. We have Paula, Jamie, Elena, Svetlana. Welcome all. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone. We were just discussing that it would be very hard to follow up these amazing speakers who were just before us, but we will try our best to share some more insights on the brands and NFTs. If we want to introduce ourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name's Sina. I'm the head of growth at MyNFT. MyNFT is a multi-chain NFT marketplace. We also have a cool auction mechanism called GBM, where basically you bid, and the person that outbids you, they win the NFT, but you earn a proportion of the final bid. So you either win the NFT or you make profit, which is a really cool price discovery way, and it's proprietary technology to us. Our whole sort of objective is to make NFT ownership as accessible as possible. So you might have seen the vending machine outside. That's ours. It is currently down at the moment, last time I checked, because we got too many sales, but I think it's up now. So if you go outside now, I think it works. But yeah, that's my NFT.
I'm Jamie Lewis, a co-founder of Ioconic, and we're a Web3-based venture studio and work with global brands building out blockchain-based ecosystems. And ultimately, we don't operate as an agency. We invest in all of our projects on a licensing basis and sort of take ownership and offer a full end-to-end solution in terms of tech stack, marketing, sales, etc., for the IPs that we work with.
How you doing? My name is Paula. I am director of A Block of Crypto. We're an education and consultancy firm. And I'm also co-founder of Swag Bags, which is a digital alternative to traditional swag.
Hello, my name is Elena, and my background is in digital marketing strategy, mainly acquisition and growth for global brands. I'm co-founder of a marketing Web3 community to empower women marketers into the Web3.
Hi, and I'm Svetlana. I am from a luxury heritage brand where De Beers, it's a jewelry brand, and I'm leading the Web3 strategy and execution. So I know firsthand how difficult it is for somebody from Web2 to enter the space in the right, authentic way. And I'm also part of a London Women Leading Web3 community. It's a community that connects the women here in London that are actually actively working in the Web3 space at a senior and executive level. And I guess we're going to start with the first question, is actually why global brands should consider entering the space.
I guess I'll kick off. I have an interesting take on this because I see NFTs as slightly different to like traditional assets. I don't see them as assets. I see them as a different thing of asset ownership. And when you introduce that sort of technology, I think businesses should look at it in a way of like, yeah, we have revenue and we have costs, and how can we use this revolutionary technology to impact both of them? I think right now brands are looking at it just from the revenue perspective, and not just revenue, but also short-term revenue of like a cash grab, and it's not really meant for that. And it gives obviously the industry a very bad name, which is why a lot of media doesn't really like the space. And so that's my personal take on it. I think when you get brands taking it, and I think that the conversation before was getting to a space where brands are using NFTs to elevate the experience from both, to elevate the customer experience, and then obviously that increases the revenue, but also decreases cost. Then you're introducing a very interesting proposition where people might own NFTs without actually knowing that they're owning them. That's what they were talking about before. So yeah, I think that obviously opens up a very interesting proposition that they can look at.
I think it's an interesting point because, there's been such a hype over the last 18 months. So many people have adopted the technology in one form or another. Some have worked extremely well, some haven't, for lots of different reasons. And I think where we are in terms of the market now, I think rather than looking at potential new projects in the space as NFT projects, ultimately, if you're a global brand, the idea of launching an NFT project is probably going to resonate with far too few of your target audience or your supporters or whatever that might be. But looking at sort of like blockchain-based infrastructure projects and sort of future-proofing new engagement mechanisms, I think is, ultimately they're going to be the key for brands here, rather than what we've seen over the last couple of years of, 10K drops surrounding brands just relying on that IP to try and generate some revenue. That's not engaging, and actually it's gone past that point of engagement. It's now pissing too many people off, to be honest with you. But making use of the underlying technology is where brands are going to benefit the most, moving forward.
Just to reiterate the point made there, that doing a drop for a brand, that unless you're going to give something to your community, when people are doing their drops, they're extracting from their community and they're looking to monetize. And NFT should really be looked at as a way to give to your community and to combine to your community, to your customers, to your following base, instead of a way from extracting from them. And this is something that the brands really have to look at, is what value can they give, not what value they can extract from their communities when they're doing these NFT drops.
Yeah, I'm completely aligned with you. As I see wallets in the future, I'm a believer that they will be like a new complete marketing channel, as social media is right now. So NFTs will allow brands to interact with customers. And I recently heard of the share of wallets metrics, which is really fantastic, as, for example, the share of voice of a brand. And there would be a moment when wallets become massive that brands will need to interact and know how to use NFTs within wallets to engage with customers and potential clients that have many other brands in their top of mind also.
Yeah, definitely. I think the most interesting is that you can attract completely new customer segment. It's probably someone you currently are not buying your brand, maybe completely different age gap, gender gap, that you're not covering at the moment. And as a result, you can almost reinvent your brand, or try to reinvent your brand with this kind of new generation, right? Like there's Gen Z, Alpha, and they think differently. They behave differently, and if you wanna, make sure that you are going hand in hand as a heritage brand, and again, this is kind of my lens, it's, there is a lot of reputational risk of doing it, completely not thought through, but this space is so, forgiving and enabling you to do it and try it. So I think that's exciting for the brands, and that's the reason they should try to enter the space. But I think
I think that's interesting though, Svetlana, because ultimately it depends who you're trying to target, right? You've spoken to beers are trying to open up to a new audience and sort of target a crypto audience. So yeah, it can be extremely effective in that regard. But if you were looking at like a mass market opportunity, like if you're a global brand and you've got IP and supporters or fans or collectors all over the world, ultimately how effective is an NFT specific project going to be in terms of like onboarding new users, etc. You're talking to such a small number, but obviously if the program is aimed at, onboarding crypto natives, then for sure it can be super effective.
And it brings us, I think, to the next discussion, which we want to focus actually our panel on, is do's and don'ts. And I think Paula already mentioned about avoiding trying to be a cash grab, or avoiding using the technology for the wrong reasons. But please, guys, jump in. What else is do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point that was just raised. And we spoke to, a large part of what we do is actually education. A lot of brands come to us like, how do we do this? And we had one that came to us, very big fashion newspaper. You definitely would have heard of them. I can't mention, but they were basically talking very, very quickly about how much money can we make. And it's like, that's the wrong lens of looking at this. You need to look at it from, okay, these are your existing subscribers. This is your like churn rate. You need to look at it like an actual business case study, an existing business problems that this technology can face. And then kind of look at the pros and cons similar to you would any other technology. But this sort of technology can, augment existing business propositions, business plans, and business propositions. And when you get to that place, it's very, very effective. We were also talking to they were quite a big YouTube collective in the UK, and they've got like a big fan base as well as like physical stores. of what they sell. Again, I can't mention, but they wanted a way of like creating value across both digital and physical. And kind of the only way you can do that is through NFT technology. But they were trying to find so many different like ways of doing it. And this is like the most obvious way and frictionless way that they can do it. But when I say frictionless, that's the sort of responsibility of us as builders. We need to obviously build an ecosystem where we know the technology can impact, but we need to build a frictionless space. So yeah, that's obviously what we have to do. The responsibility. It's very early, of course. I know like everyone says that, but it obviously still is.
I hope we're still early. In terms of do's and don'ts, from a personal perspective, in terms of our business, we're quite unique in the sense that as a venture studio, ultimately we invest in the IP that we're partnering with. So ultimately we pay the brands for the rights to utilize their IP and then roll out the programs, run them, market them, etc. So as much as it's a decision on the brand's part, if they want to do it, ultimately it also sits with us. So we're not going to allocate our funds into a project that we don't feel has a place in the market. So, assessing the opportunity is a huge part of what we do. And, we've been fortunate enough to work with, some of the biggest IPs in the world, which is great. And we've been approached by lots of others and explore those opportunities. And ultimately, the projects come down to a decision on whereby, is there a consumer demand for this project? Are people going to engage with it? Is it solving a problem? Is it interesting? And is it going to further the cause of either the people you're trying to target or your business? If those answers are yes, fantastic. But especially last year, we were turning away a huge amount of opportunities that we weren't willing to invest into alongside brands because ultimately they were highly speculative, opportunistic plays that brands wanted to launch and we didn't want to put our name to it. So, as Svetlana said, there's a reputational element here as well, especially for the brands, and they need to remain protected as they enter the space in one form or another.
So,
I have a slightly different take on it, that look, all brands are trying to figure out how to make that Web3 connection, and the easiest way to make a Web3 connection is through NFTs. And I look at an NFT in a very unpopular way, and I might get booed here for saying this, but in my opinion, an NFT is just like a cookie. As soon as an NFT goes into somebody's wallet, you always have access to that person in some form or another. So unless they burn that NFT, it's an undeletable cookie. So brands need to realize that they're going to have to come up with a different marketing strategy, a completely different strategy if they want to make these connections, and just dropping NFTs isn't the way to go, because they are just going to piss off their loyal community, their loyal customers, their loyal supporters. So they need to have a good strategy in place, sit down and think about it, plan it, before they actually go ahead and start doing drops or anything like that. So that would be my do's and don'ts, is really have a strategy before you get into this, that at the end of the day, people are going to be opting in when they mint your NFT or when they take an NFT. They're opting in, and they're opting in for you to have contact with them in a way through blockchain, through Web3. Now, I know currently, okay, you can't send a message to somebody, but we've seen in the latest talk about HubSpot and their inbound marketing, and if you connect with something like that, you now do have that direct connection with the person where you're linking wallets with actual people. And then it's targeted, it's extremely targeted. And targeting is much more important to get them to the right people than just to spread them out there and everybody to have them.
yeah, I wanted to comment something very similar, as you said, Paula, because I think we need to think about the problem we are solving and also have a more strategic approach. So not just launch tactic campaigns as MGM using NFTs or that kind of things, but just think in a more strategic way. So we need to define what KPIs are we going to impact by using this new technology. Also, what levers we want to move. We can change kind of the business model and balance the value generation into by getting all the stakeholders into the big picture, like everyone, not just one kind of stakeholders, but For example, all users, clients, partners, influencers, everyone. And when you define those KPIs and the levers that will move it, you can automate the way of rewarding each stakeholder. And I think that would activate also the growth of the brand in a way. And you can do that without intermediaries and in the most transparent way.
Awesome. I agree with everything. And I think from my side, it will be 3 key learnings or advice to the global brands on what to do. So first of all, go and spend and learn from the community. You won't be able to do it on your own. You won't learn from reading about things or having agencies presented to you, because some of them is like blind leading the blind, unfortunately. So you actually should go and talk. And what is amazing, I found out that it's not only like ecosystem players are willing to talk to you, but also like fellow entrepreneurs. So somebody who works in like corporate environments. So I'm connected to like global brands, and everybody willing to talk, because we are building it together, we are learning it together. A week in the space is like years, so the connection is important. So I'm happy to talk to also anyone who wants to hear more about the learnings. The second thing is go find the right partners to help you, because you won't be able to do it in-house, at least not at this stage, or it's going to take you years. So, and look for the partner, someone like Jamie, what he said, that is not going to exploit you, which is so important.
She's not even on commission.
Yeah, I
promise you she's not on commission.
Well, I'm waiting after this. No, because like my experience, we talk to so many partners, so you can see, they see you as a like IP monetization thing, and it's the opposite of the brand. Because your reputation is at stake, you don't want to be associated with partners who are going to just exploit you, use the cash grab, use like a marketing campaign. So really do your due diligence into those partners. And finally, the point, spend a lot of time, already start now, talking to your marketing team, legal team, finance team in-house, because my background is innovation, but I feel like I'm a lobbyist. Like this is primarily 99% of the time I do is just to explain and take people on journey in-house, because again, for those guys, like this space is like wild, wild west, and again, then you can find solutions, you can bring the right partners on board. Like for example, we're not gonna accept crypto in terms of, because on a balance sheet is not, it's not recognized, so there's like all those things, but there are third-party solutions which enable you to, of course, allow customers to pay in crypto. It's just like it doesn't end up on your balance sheet. So that would be my kind of 3 main learnings to share. And I know we have 2 last minutes,
Well,
so...
I just want to make a quick point about, just before we wrap up, and just with like more brands getting into the space, I want to like make a quick point, and hopefully this helps. But how many of you, very easy question, how many of you actually own an NFT? Okay, majority of you, that's probably good, like NFT conference. Keep your hands up if you know exactly the rights that you have with that NFT. Okay.
All of them?
No, it's like maybe 40%, 50%. And I think with brands coming into this, that needs to be really worked out. Like if you go and buy anything from a brand, and I bought an NFT from a big clothing brand, I'm not going to disclose their name because I think it's unfair, but you could go into their shops and like buy their clothing, and it's a transaction at the end of the day. That's what it is. And you have some rights when it comes to that transaction. When you buy an NFT, they bring out all this, okay, utility is important for brands, of course. I mean, we've talked about that. But when that utility is just like, oh yeah, we're going to be doing this, but there's no legal rights, like, what is it? It's just false promises, and a lot of them like do fall off. The discords are very, very lively at the beginning, and then they like really fall down. So that's one thing that I really want to change in the space is, licensing across the board with everything. And I think that's something that we really want to build on our marketplace is whenever a brand, not just a brand, but any sort of artist, creator, anyone that buys and sells NFTs, that license should go across, across the secondary markets as well. Because when you own an NFT, you have a right to do something. But right now, you've got no claim, you've got no ownership, and that needs to be changed. So that's not something that we're building, but we're trying very hard to find a partner in order to help build that, because that needs to go across the board, not just for our marketplace.
Having the right utility is key, and it's not all just about IP. additional utilities can be added, such as exclusive events, or you can get a physical item if you go into a store and have a transaction actually happen. You can get a discounted price or something like that if you're holding an NFT, twice as much discount if you're holding 5 NFTs. So, but that's all part of the strategy and the planning beforehand, and it shouldn't be oh, well, we'll get to that. It should be defined right from the start and be clear from the start of what people are going to get for holding these NFTs.
For reference, that Discord that I was talking about with the clothing brand is just like completely abandoned, even though they promised a lot of like things. I think everyone here must have been through a similar journey, right? It's not a nice experience. It needs to be changed. Otherwise, it will continue to give NFTs a bad name. So it needs to be.
I think I bought that one as well.
That's why it's great to see there is a whole legal track as part of this conference. So I'm trying to connect with all those lawyers because it's important. Awesome, guys. I think we are perfectly on time. Any last closing remarks? Just do it. Not sponsored by Nike.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.